Okay, everybody who was waiting in the queue has now been admitted, so I'm going to go ahead and start this meeting. I just wanted to let everybody know that we appreciate you coming in and finding out some more information about our full-time online program that we're going to offer the rest of this school year for parents who want to keep their students home longer. Also want to let you know that this is recorded. So we will be putting it on social media in a day or so. You can go back and review it if there's something you miss and you want to go back. Also, we will be answering questions. Only one was emailed in advance, so if you have questions, please put them in the chat and we'll monitor that. And at the end, we'll try to, if we haven't answered it already, we'll try to answer any questions that you might have. So I'm going to just go ahead and get started here by sharing my screen. Just a quick note, this is the website where all of our information about Returning to Learn 2020 is located. It's our Cottonwood Oak Creek School District website, and the Return to Learn tab is right here, and that just takes you to this, which has all the information that we have at this point. Of course, we will continue to add to it as we get more information. All right, so tonight we're going to be talking about the Cottonwood Online Institute, which is underneath the Arizona iZone Institute, which is our online program that Cottonwood Oak Creek School District has. We're talking about full-time enrollment. Hold on one second, I have another participant. Okay, we're talking about full-time enrollment, people who would like to have their students staying in the online program beyond when the governor allows us to re-enter our schools. This virtual presentation is being broadcast live through Zoom. It's being recorded. Those who are interested will be able to rewatch the presentation after it is complete on our Facebook page and our district website. If you have any questions during the webinar, please post it in the comments section. We'll attempt to answer as many questions as we can live at the end of the presentation. In addition, all the questions will be compiled in the answer and posted on our district website. Those with specific questions that are related to your individual circumstances should email myself at kepperson@cocsd.k12.8.us in lieu of posting it in the public comment section. Oops. So all about the Cottonwood Online Institute. We're calling it the COI for short. A full-time COI student will include online lessons, as well as some independent activities which are not computer-based, access to virtual interaction with teachers and classmates, access to virtual lessons with teachers and students to provide clarification and extended tutoring, access before and after school activities at the student's home school. Example would be clubs and athletics, and personalized learning, an opportunity to work above or below grade level based on your diagnostic testing. What is Cottonwood Online Institute? The COI was started as Cottonwood School District's online school in 2012. The COI was a K-12 until 2017. At that time, the school focused on the lower grade, or on grades 7 to 12. Subsequently, the COI has progressed to lower grades and will again be able to go K-8 for the 2021 school year. There is no cost during the school year to take the online courses. What is Edgenuity and Google Classroom? These are terms to know. Edgenuity is the created course content that the COI uses. That is the what, or the content. Google Classroom is the LMS, or the Learning Management System. That's the landing page for all of the COI information, lesson plans, the attendance, notifications. This is the how, or the access point. Google Classroom, I do have an example here. Let me click on this and just show you quickly. It will be different than last year's Google Classrooms. This is a sample classroom. And when you click on the classwork tab at the top, you now can see how it's going to look. The lesson plan will be the first thing that everyone will see, no matter what class, no matter what grade, no matter what school. The lesson plan, the PowerPoint presentation, much like this. Kind of slow loading tonight. There'll be a welcome, maybe a video from the teacher, an explanation of when and where they may have their Zoom meetings, and then the actual lesson plans. August 5th, day 1, specific directions about what the teacher is asking your student to do. Day 2, that's actually really my daughter's birthday. I put it there because I want to remember it. And I keep going back to this page constantly. Day 2's directions are there, but announcements like this can go in for the teacher, and et cetera, et cetera. And let me close this. And then after the classwork, you'll see daily attendance. The Arizona Department of Ed is requiring us to do attendance for online education, and that's the way it has been in the past as well. You have to do attendance. So this is just basically a daily form that the student and yourself can go into and just mark down how many hours and minutes of instructional time that you had in the day. Then you start with Language Arts Week 1, the assignments for day 1. Again, it's explaining what to do, and the link that will take you exactly to where the teacher wants you to go. So there's no fishing around to try to find out where those assignments would be. Day 2, same thing. If you scroll down a little, you'll see the Math Week 1, day 1, day 2. Then there would be Social Studies and Science, day 1, day 2, week 1, day 1, day 2. Then of course we will add week 2 after day 1 has been completed. So that's kind of how it's going to look. A quick look at Edgenuity, that's the LMS, the Learning Management System, where you go to find your information. Edgenuity, the what, will look like this. This is a sample lesson. And it's taking a while to load here. There we go.
Hi there. To get started, let's review what you already know about fractions. A fraction is a number that shows the relationship between a part and a whole. The denominator is the bottom number in a fraction. In the fraction 2/4, the denominator shows that the whole has been divided into 4 equal parts. See that? The numerator is the top number in a fraction. In the fraction 2/4, the numerator shows that the fraction describes 2 of the 4 equal parts, like we see here. So that's a fraction, a denominator, and a numerator. Sweet. The next part will be neat, and if it's not, I'll wash your dog, or your cat, or your socks. Now that we've got that covered, let's go over what you need to know. Equivalent fractions are different fractions that name the same amount. Equivalent fractions are the same size or the same point on a number line. Let's take a peek at an example. Marcus planted carrots in 1/4 of his garden. Mariella planted carrots in 2/8 of her garden. If their gardens are the same size, did Marcus and Mariella plant carrots in an equivalent amount of space?
So as you can see, this is an example of a teacher-recorded lesson that's to show students what they're learning, and then they would move into the activity part of the lesson when they were finished with the video. So that is what Edgenuity is, the actual lessons that are available. I'm going to try to go to present mode so you can see. I may have to come out as letting participants in makes it where I can't see the board. All right, enrollment. Enrollment begins on July 21st, and go to our website and you can enroll at any time after that. The website is cocsd.us/return-to-learn, which is the one I showed you at the very beginning. The enrollment form is a link to the enrollment form. It is also on that page about halfway down, and it says on full-time online instruction. So that would also be where you would be able to enroll your student. I'm going to unshare just a moment and share again so that those yellow lines disappear off of my screen. And I lost my whole presentation. Hold on one second. There we go. Devices. The students who enroll in our COI will be able to check out a Chromebook and/or a Wi-Fi hotspot if it's needed. Students will check out their device from the Cottonwood Oak Creek School District office. The technology department will be contacting families when the devices are ready. Families looking to purchase their own device are encouraged to purchase a Chromebook. The form to request a device is listed here. This form will also be on the website just below the registration button, so that if you need to get a device or Wi-Fi unit, you can click on the form and request that. Who are the teachers? COI teachers are Cottonwood Oak Creek School certified teachers. All COCSD students will be assigned to a homeroom teacher August 5th through the 14th. Depending on the numbers who ask for full-time online enrollment, the students remaining after the 17th may require a restructuring of their homeroom teacher assignments. What courses will students take for K-8 for COI? Language arts, math, social studies, science. They can also take elective classes such as PE, music, art, technology, social emotional learning, keyboarding, and project-based learning. Oops. This is just a sample. This is not a requirement. This is just an idea of how a day might go. Students might have some announcements in the beginning of the day. They may have some independent work time, some class time to do some activities. Again, in an online program, it is available to students at any time. So if your student is not available to be able to do some of these things, they can always do the recorded things at the time when they're available to do it. So this is just a sample of what a schedule might look like. This is another possible sample for the older grades of what it might look like. Sample breakdown of older grades. Just some ideas of what they might look like. I'm going to go out of present mode for just a second because I feel like there's somebody out there waiting to get into my program, into my meeting. Sure enough. All right, we'll go back to this one. Present. What a typical day might look like. All Online instructional courses, schools are required to have 5 hours per day, K-12 for schooling. A daily check-in of time with the teacher and office hours. There's a combination of live, recorded, personalized, and/or independent work time. And you'll meet the state requirements for online equivalency to face-to-face instruction. And I have another person wanting in. Hold on one second. Okay. Again, sample schedules that we'll just see how they all work out in the end. Can students complete COI at their own pace? The pace will vary by grade level and by student ability as needed. Cottonwood Oak Creek School District is currently working with Mingus to determine if 8th grade students will be able to take Algebra 1 through our COI. What are time logs? For an AOI, as an online institution, such as the COI, the state requires attendance time to be logged for the purpose of attendance reporting. This may include time outside of the school day. Typical hours required are 5 hours a day or 25 hours a week. Students will be asked to complete a time log each week to confirm their time online and offline for the week. Parents and guardians will confirm the attendance for each week. Students with IEP, an individualized learning plan. If your student is currently a COCSD student with an IEP, your student's case manager at their campus and coordinator will be notified. The IEP team will need to meet to determine if free appropriate public education can be met in an online format. If your student is not currently a COCSD student, but lives within the Cottonwood Oak Creek school boundaries and has an IEP, please contact your home school or boundaried school so that we can schedule an IEP meeting to determine if FAPE can be met in an online format. If your student is not currently a COCSD student and does not live in the Cottonwood boundaries and has an IEP, please contact our COCSD district office so that we can work with the special education department in determining whether your student's needs can be met with the current staffing capacity. Students with a 504. If your student is currently a COCSD student with a 504, you will need to meet with the campus administration to determine if the 504 accommodations can be met in an online format. If your student is not currently enrolled in a Cottonwood Oak Creek School District school and has a 504, please contact the district office so that we can determine if the accommodations can be met with an online format. Deciding to return to school or brick and mortar. You have the option to return to your home school at any time you would like. Ideally, and to maintain consistency to the regular classroom instruction, this would happen at the end of a quarter. COCSD is flexible with return to campus dates in order to meet the needs of all of our students. You will not lose your spot in your home school. You will be allowed to continue with the COI for the full year if that's your choice. So once again, to reiterate, you would not lose your spot at your home school, no matter which school it is. Where can you learn more about the COI? Our website that I showed you at the beginning, cocsd.us/return-to-learn. And then again, the enrollment form is about halfway down that page. So you can click on the enrollment form and get started with the process and let us know that you are interested in staying online longer than the schools are closed at this point. Questions. We'll answer the questions that were sent in ahead of time first. We'll also try to answer as many questions that are asked in the chat. If you have further questions, or your question is specific to your situation, please email me at kepperson@cocsd.k12.az.us. So Jamie, do we have questions?
Yes, I'll go ahead and read some of the questions that have come in. Sarah Massey asked the first question related to homeschool. And you did cover this, but yes, if a student or a family chooses to enroll in our online institute, they will still be enrolled at their home school. So for instance, if we have a child at Oak Creek School, August 5th through the 14th, they will begin with their homeroom teacher at Oak Creek School. Depending on what our plan for reopening looks like and what the governor's orders are as far as schools continuing to be closed, if we continue to remain in closure for all of first quarter, if that's the closure from the governor or if that's what the governing board decides, then that student would remain with their homeroom teacher. However, if the school district begins to reopen, there may be a restructuring of our online teachers beginning August 17th. Again, if your child is in the full-time online and then a quarter in or 2 quarters in January, they decide that they would like to go back into the building, they would go back to the school that they were registered in. All right. Next question. How will attendance be measured? And are the times flexible for attendance? So again, I think that Mrs. Epperson has covered this as far as the 5 hours required per day in order to meet the Arizona Department of Education's guidelines for attendance. That attendance is a combination of both online and offline. The families, guardians are the ones that record and track that. So within that, there is some flexibility about the amount of time that the student is spending online or offline. All right. Hey,
So just to clarify, if both parents are working and your student can't do it at a certain time of day, it doesn't matter. Your student can do it when you're available.
that's correct. And there will be a combination again of live and recorded lessons. There would not be an expectation that students enrolled in the online full-time attend all live Zoom type meetings. Of course, the teachers are there for support. It's there for additional support that a family may need, but we understand that each circumstance, each family's circumstance is going to look a little bit different. A question regarding are our children not pre-enrolled? Your children are students are currently enrolled for their home site. We do not currently have any students enrolled for our full-time online institute. So these are families that would like to continue right now for the time being online. They're looking at 1, 2 quarters, the first semester, or all of the year online. If you are looking at online within COCSD as a full-time option, you will need to use the registration form that is on our district website and go ahead and enroll your student in the online option for the year. All right. And if students enroll in the COI for the first 2 weeks, will they need to re-enroll in their home school to do in-person? All of our students will begin online August 5th through the 14th. Again, if your child is planning to come, if you would like your child to come back in person as soon as the schools open, you will not need to register. Only if you're planning to go online for the first quarter, second quarter, all year. But once you've decided that you would like your child to go back to their homeschool in person, you will not need to re-enroll, but you will notify Kathy Epperson that your child will no longer be participating in the full-time online, and you will need to notify the school to let them know that your child will be moving back to in-person. Again, the key is flexibility, because we know that given the current circumstances we are all facing, times are changing and families may choose different decisions based on what their situation at home may look like. All right. Okay. Question, how many hours of actual teacher Zoom instruction per week? That's a great question. Our instructional task force is actually meeting again this Friday to look at the specific schedules that teachers will have. The first 2 weeks of school, August 5th through the 14th, will be half days for all students. And then August 17th and beyond will begin the full-time instruction, whether it be in person or online. And there will be schedules being posted on what that will look like. Again, I want to reiterate that the Zoom Live will not be a required component. That is a support given. We encourage all students to attend the live, but then we have the backup recording pieces as well for families that are not able to attend on the live sessions. Yeah, so good question again. Is there an option to enroll online and switch to the classroom learning at any point, or vice versa? Yes, it works both ways. If you start online, you may go back to the classroom. If something changes with your family circumstances, you may re-enroll in the full-time online institute. And then another question regarding being able to keep their spot at their home school. Yes, all children will be able to keep their spot at their home school, whether they're enrolled in the full-time online or they're in the return to learn plan. Okay, if I understand correctly, our students will be assigned to a teacher at our home school. If the student continues with online past the first 2 weeks, they may be assigned to another teacher. If the student returns to their home school in a month or two, they will have their original teacher at their home school. Yes, that is correct. And again, we are beginning with the home teachers from their homeschool site, and there may be a restructuring of the teacher dependent on the online numbers. And then if they return back to their home site, they would have that original teacher that they began with August 5th through the 14th. Is enrolling in the online format mandatory, or can we wait to resume in-class learning? Cottonwood Oak Creek School District will begin attendance for students on August 5th. So again, I'll say that one more time. We will begin taking attendance on August 5th. Great question. What if a child can complete their work in 2 to 3 hours? As the parent guardian, you will fill out the form based on the learning that is happening. So if they can complete their personalized learning within Edgenuity in 2 to 3 hours, we imagine that you will also have independent activities off of the computer that would suffice the 5 hours. So you as the parent will have control on reporting what that would look like. And so we realize that, again, some parents may have more time in the morning or in the evening to be able to work with their child, and then some of that learning may take place off of the computer as well. If you sign up for in-person classes once they open, but then decide you need to go back to online classes, can you do this? Yes. So you do not need to register for the full-time online if you would like to go back in person right now. If you begin in person and you change your mind, then you will come and contact the district office or go to our registration form and you will sign up for the online learning. What will the district do if the district determines that a student on a 504 or an IEP cannot have their needs met online and the family does not want the student to be on campus? I am going to take that question, and that will come out later in the week in our FAQs. Our special education director, Dr. Ali, is not on the call this evening. What type of help desk will be available for students that need help to connect online? It's a great question as well. We have a variety of tools available. Teachers will have office hours where they can Zoom with families, they can call on the phone. We will also have an online help desk set up within the school district where families can go into the Google Classroom. They can fill out a form asking for help, and then we will have We will have a support staff member from our own district contact the family to be able to provide support. And then also through Edgenuity, they have an on-demand feature. If there are any questions about the recorded lessons, the work that students are doing, you can connect also with someone from Edgenuity as well. Okay. Do we have to wait until a new quarter to enroll for in-person classes, or can we come back at any point during the quarter? And yes, there is flexibility for staffing purposes. We do encourage families to go ahead and choose to stay with the option through the quarter. However, if it is no longer feasible for a family may choose to go either online or go back into the classroom. So students would stay with the same teacher all year at the Cottonwood Online Institute. For the first 2 weeks, all students will be with their homeroom teacher from their school site. If we continue in school closure as a district, students will remain with that homeroom teacher. If we reopen the buildings on August 17th, there may be a need to restructure the classrooms and the teaching assignments, and students who stay online may be reassigned to another teacher for the remainder of the year. However, they would still keep contact with that homeroom classroom through Google Classroom, but there would be another teacher from COCSD who would monitor their learning online. Okay. If students enroll in Cottonwood Online Institute and stay for the entire school year, will they be allowed to return to their home school for the next academic school year? Yes, they will. Okay. We are currently taking an online ag class with OCS. They supported all course needs, including supplies. Will this be the same with the Cottonwood Online Institute? I'm going to hold that question and go ahead and put that out in the FAQs. I would imagine if the child is taking a core class, any materials that they need, Cottonwood Oak Creek School District will provide those materials. However, if they are taking an elective class, families would be notified ahead of time if there was anything that they would need to purchase, or Cottonwood Oak Creek School District would provide, but I'm going to double check that answer and I'll add it into our FAQs that will come out later this week. When are the quarters so that we can assess returning? The first quarter ends, let's see, Mrs. Epperson, do you know the exact date? I think it's the first week in October is the end of the first quarter. That typically falls into our fall break. Second quarter ends just at the winter break.
October 5th would begin our fall break. December 21st or 21st would begin our winter break. And then March 8th would begin the spring break.
Excellent. And you can also find our school district calendar on the district website as well. So October, January would be coming back from the second quarter, and then after spring break would be coming back from the third quarter. All right. Okay. Another question, if we plan on doing the 2 weeks, or as long as the schools are closed, we do nothing in regard to enrollment. At whatever time we decide we want to continue online, when the schools open, we can enroll in the Cottonwood Online Institute. And this person said, sorry to be confused, but I totally understand it because we do have 2 different tracks and they are operating at the same point simultaneously for 2 weeks. So I would say that if you right now, and again, you can change your mind at any time, but right now, if you as a family are feeling like you're going to stay online for the first quarter, just go ahead and fill out the form, because we'll be in contact. Mrs. Epperson will be in contact with you. Your school will be in contact with you. And then again, you can let us know if the schools end up staying closed for the first quarter, which truly I have no idea if that will happen or not. But if they were to stay closed and you wanted to continue beyond, then you would already be enrolled. And again, you can change your mind back and forth. But if right now you're thinking, we're most likely going to stay online first quarter, go ahead and enroll using the form, the Google form.
Can I read for you to give you a break in between?
What's that?
I'm going to read the questions to give you a break in between.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Is the attendance allowed on the weekends or just Monday through Friday?
So I'm going to actually defer back to you, because you are our expert in online education.
For online education, they're basically open 24/7, 365 days out of the year. So yes, you can do it on the weekends.
So I'm hearing there's flexibility in that. All right.
Are there buses available on 817?
Are there buses available on 817? So all of those plans for reopening are still in the works. If you were on the call with Superintendent King last night, he announced that at the governing board meeting on August 4th, there will be additional plans for reopening to brick and mortar.
So does the 10-day drop rule apply? If the family doesn't start online, will they be dropped from enrollment?
So technically, if the family, and Kathy, please feel free to correct me, the family are actually, our school district begins again on August 5th. If your family is hoping that we will be open on August 17th, you would still be within that 10-day drop period. Again, the option to return August 5th is there, and attendance will be taken.
Is offline learning included? PE and other activities?
So that would be included in the log that the family keeps for the 5 hours total a day, 25 hours a week. You would go ahead and document those types of things. We also may have clubs, exploratories available for some live PE art classes as well. That would count toward the 5 hours. But also if you choose to do some PE and offline learning, that also would be included in the 5 hours per day.
Let's see, if our children are enrolled from last year, what specifically do we need to do as parents at this point?
If your children were enrolled in our school district last year and you are planning to enroll in the full-time online, you will need to complete the Google form. If your children are, or you as a family are planning to start August 5th through the 14th online with the intent to return in person as soon as the school district is allowed to return in person, you do not need to do anything. You are already enrolled.
Are there supply lists for each grade?
Supply list for each grade. For school buildings, you would go through the school if your child is planning to return on in person. There are not yet school lists for Cottonwood Online Institute if your child is planning to remain online full-time for the year, but those will be available, I would imagine, by July 31st.
When will homeroom teachers be determined for either in-person or online?
Homeroom teachers for the first 2 weeks of school are currently being determined. Teachers will begin contacting families July 31st, August 3rd, and August 4th. The first 2 weeks, again, are half days because we understand that there will be a transition into that online. Students may be still collecting their devices, getting their access to online, but you will hear from your child homeroom teacher, which all students will begin with their homeroom teacher from their home site on August 5th. You will hear from them either July 31st, August 3rd, August 4th, possibly before, but teachers are contracted to be back in session and working on July 31st. So we cannot expect that teachers are contacting families prior to their working days.
Will the students still need to buy school supplies like notebooks, etc.? I can probably answer that one. If you're doing the continued online instruction, you maybe are going to need a few basic things that you would need: a notebook to keep some notes in, to keep track of yourself, a pencil, paper, that kind of thing. But major supplies, you probably won't need any unless you're taking some kind of an elective, and then you might need some supplies to go with that. Will there be any pencil or paper or hands-on assignments to go with the online pieces or workbooks to pick up for younger children like kindergartners?
Great question. And yes, there will be hands-on activities, and there will be activities that are assigned offline where students would need paper and pencil. Workbooks have not yet been determined whether or not students would use those with the full-time online. So we'll add that to the FAQs once we have more information about
that. Is morning check-in mandatory?
Morning check-in is not mandatory. The attendance log is mandatory.
There we go. Is there a specific Chrome device we need to get? No, any Chrome device will do the programs that we have. You recommended a Chromebook. Is this appropriate for younger kids, or would a tablet be better? Good question. A tablet probably would work, but a Chromebook will work as well. I also know you can get Chromebooks with touch screens, and so that might be a good option, so they can transition from touching the computer to using a keyboard, because they are going to need to have those skills in the future. We've mentioned electives several times. Could we speak more about what that means and if it's relevant to K-8?
Sure. And actually our instructional task force again is meeting this Friday, and they will be looking closely at electives for the district. There are new decisions that have currently been made. I imagine that there may be a combination of some live elective classes. So if your child is a third grader, there may be a PE session that is delivered live at a certain time. Also, clubs may be handled through Google Classroom, and so we may go ahead and send out to our full-time online students a list of clubs that they would like to sign up for, and then the student would have access to that Google Classroom. There may be a combination of live, recorded information and activities within that Google Classroom specific to that club.
And what portion of the COI curriculum is teacher created versus Edgenuity created?
Edgenuity is the primary foundation for the curriculum that we will be using in the online format. Our instructional task force, which was made up of administrators, teachers, family members, and then approved by the governing board, specifically selected Edgenuity because it is designed for the online environment with the ability to transition to in-person learning as well. So there may be some teacher-created materials in the Google Classroom. However, those materials will be optional. The Edgenuity is what will be graded and assessed for student report cards and learning. There may be a few exceptions with some courses like science and social studies, but it would be minimal.
If a student enrolls in COI, they will not be connected to their original homeroom teacher anymore, correct? They will have their own dedicated online teacher assigned to them, right?
So they will have their own dedicated online teacher assigned to them. However, they will still have access to their homeroom teacher from their home site's Google Classroom. So that if they choose to keep a relationship, see what is happening within that classroom, teachers will continue to post information, and so that when a child transitions back to the home site, there is still a connection and familiarity with that home classroom. But again, the dedicated online teacher would be the person that would be on a daily basis supporting and managing their education.
Where do we sign up for a Chromebook for my child? Tomorrow morning on that COCSD Return to Learn website, right underneath the register spot will be a button for you to push to request a device.
Mrs. Epperson, I also had one question that was texted to me earlier, and I just want to make sure that I answer that one as well. If I have more than one child that is enrolled in the Cottonwood Online Institute, morning meetings are potentially happening at the same time, how will I keep track of their assignments? That again will happen through the learning management system, Google Classroom, as Kathy demonstrated earlier in the Google Classroom. All of the lessons, all of the assignments will clearly be detailed for families to come back to at any time.
If we elect to go to COI for the year, does that affect the funding for our school district?
Currently, under Governor Ducey's plan and orders, students are not required to unenroll from their home school and enroll in our Arizona Online Institute through the state. We can keep students enrolled through their home school, which does allow the district to collect the full funding for the student. If that changes, students would still be connected to their home school. However, we would have to enroll officially through the Arizona Online Institute through the state. We would collect 95% of the student funding. And again, that also brings up just one more thing that I know has been asked several times about keeping the spot for a student at their home school. Again, if a student is enrolled in our Cottonwood Online Institute, they are able to stay at their home school when they return. But if a family were to choose homeschool or to enroll in an outside online program, they would not be connected to their home school when they returned. They would need to re-enroll. But if they enroll in Cottonwood Online Institute to stay online for the year or a quarter, then they are fine to re-enroll to their home site without having to re-register.
Is there an option to continue online after the first year if desired?
So as Mrs. Epperson mentioned previously, we've actually had our online institute in place since 2012. So it's been run at a pretty small rate, typically with middle grade students. However, there is consideration now for continuing it in the future to meet the needs of families.
Regarding athletics, if our student is enrolled for online learning only, at what point do they need to return to school to participate, or do they? What is the status of athletics?
And Superintendent King covered the status of athletics last night, and that will go out in our FAQs. Currently, the state of athletics is unknown, dependent on the return date and CDC guidelines. However, once athletics resume, if a child is enrolled in Cottonwood Online Institute, they are still able to participate in athletics through their home school.
And somebody has commented here that last year they attempted to use a tablet and that it was not very successful. So that's just a little piece of information that they had trouble using an iPad to get through the Google Classroom and everything. So.
And also with regard to any challenges that families experience with online learning, as you enroll in the full-time online institute, we will continue family classes, family Zoom sessions to check in with families and make sure that they are able to access the technologies, able to access the programs. So there will be continual check-in with families who enroll in the full-time online institute.
And also a side note, if you already own a computer, a Mac or a PC or any other Dell, any other kind of computers, they should work as well. You don't have to have a Chromebook. A Chromebook just would cost less if you are going to go out and try to purchase something at this time for your student. But any computer would definitely work for you to do the online. Are all programs through Edgenuity, or will there be other programs like Duolingo? And I'll just answer the other half of it.
question. So this is something that we have discussed as an instructional task force quite a bit. And we have some programs that we use in the district, such as AR Reading. We use Lexia. We use Zern Math, Mystery Science, a lot of wonderful programs. However, there was quite a bit of feedback from families that while these programs might be wonderful in an online learning environment, it can be a challenge for families to to support their students in logging into multiple programs. So to help support this, any of those additional programs outside of Edgenuity will be optional. So we may go ahead and still put Duolingo out there. However, it would be an optional program. AR would be an optional program for students to participate in, that families would have choice, unless it was an elective type course that the student was choosing to participate in.
Okay, let's see. What if your child does your lessons for the day but does 3 hours of extra lessons? That's the reason for the 25-hour-a-week option as well. That's why they don't say just 5 hours a day. They say or 25 hours a week. So if you do extra on one day, then you can take a day off if you want to. They get to record that time even if the lesson's done through the parents. Correct. What kids still have access to Lexia? Will kids still have access to Lexia and reading? Naturally. Again, another person says they used an iPad and it worked great. So maybe if you have an iPad and you want to try it out and it's not working, contact tech and we'll try to help you get through any issues that it might have. Last year we were using a program that required Flash, and iPads do have an issue with Flash. And so this year, none of our programs require Flash, so that shouldn't be a problem this year.
Yes, and that is something we specifically looked at in choosing the program for adoption, Edgenuity. We also have another program, a supplemental program for students with an individualized education plan, an IEP, called Let's Go Learn, that was used in fourth quarter last year. If your child is using that program, it does require Flash in a few of the lessons. The company is working to move away from Flash and updating. So if for some reason you experienced a challenge related to Flash, then you would go ahead and contact the teacher or Mrs. Epperson to help work through that. But Edgenuity does not require or use Flash.
Will MobiMax be available for math instruction?
Edgenuity will now take the place of MobiMax as far as the required program, and there may be some option for using MobiMax as an optional support. And MobiMax also, families, just so you know, is available as a free resource also. You don't actually have to have a paid membership to utilize MobiMax.
And we are at the bottom of the questions in the chat.
Right.
Right, so, just some thank yous. So thank you very much for being on this tonight. And again, if you have any questions after you hang up and you remember them or think of them, feel free to give me an email and we will get your answers to you as soon as possible. We'll also post this on our social media along with the FAQs.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening.
Yes.